So this event is going to be hosted by Impact Travel Alliance in Portugal. For those who don't know, Impact Travel Alliance is a non-profit global organization. We are a community that promotes sustainable traveling, and we believe that we can build a better world through tourism. We are all volunteers. We all believe in sustainability. We're all passionate for tourism. Some of us work in tourism. If you want to know more about what we do, follow us in our social networks in Facebook and Instagram. Ask whatever you want and feel free to join us. We're going to have an amazing event today. We are so excited. We're going to have different regions of Portugal represented. We're going to speak about surf. We're going to speak about wine, communities. Thank you so much for our guests. I'm going to introduce and pass the word to our first guest, Jed Brown, straight away. I won't say much. Jed comes from the UK and he has a very particular company called the Low Season Traveler. He's going to do the first keynote speak, and then we're going to have 2 session panels. Enjoy, everyone. Thank you for being here. Jed, go ahead. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. Let me turn my screen on. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction, Kinta. So yes, hello everybody, and welcome. I'd just like to start off by saying huge thanks to Impact Travel Alliance, and in particular Impact Travel Portugal, for inviting me along to speak with you today. And I hope you're all doing really well this weekend, this Saturday, and I hope you've had a good day so far. Let me figure out how to share my screen, and then we can crack on with the talk. Let me do that. Okay. I think we're in business. Hopefully, can you see my screen? If somebody could just let me know that the screen's being shown, because it's not being shown on my screen. So let me just check the feed. If someone can give me, yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So the feed's working well, so that's fantastic. I'm glad you can all see it. I can't see it, but it'll be absolutely fine, I'm sure. If you have any questions throughout, stick them in the Q&A tab just next to the feed, and we'll go through as many as we possibly can. So without further ado, let me get my controls. Okay, so the session, of course, is why low season travel is so important, and why it's just better too, in so many ways. Just to start off, you've heard a little bit about me. I'm not going to bore you with my CV. I've been 25 years in the global travel industry with companies like Thomas Cook, Kuoni, TUI, MyTravel, Forward Keys, which is a data company, before eventually founding Low Season Traveler. 2 years ago, I started to look into that. More importantly, and I think hopefully like a lot of people here, I've traveled, and I'm very, very passionate about travel and the advantages that travel brings to broaden our minds, to bring us closer to other communities around the world and different cultures as well. So yeah, I've traveled quite a lot. I'm one of these geeks, and I know it's very sad, and I don't know if anybody else out there is the same. But I tend to fill in these maps as to where I've been. Now, what's really tragic, I'm just going to point this out right at the offset, is I've traveled to over 80 countries around the world. And every time I've traveled, I've always traveled during the low seasons, mainly because I travel for events and for business and for fam trips in the tourism industry. And of course, the main reason that people send you on fam trips during the low season is because that's when they've got spare rooms and spare flights, of course. So I've traveled during the low seasons an awful lot. Something else you should know about me, I'm a data geek, although I like to think of myself as a data hero. I'm fascinated by data. And as a result of the work that I've done in the industry over the past 25 plus years, I've been studying the global travel data and trends with a geek-like fascination, to be fair. And that's why I wanted to share some of what I found with you when I was setting up Low Season Traveler, and why it kind of got me concerned. So I would follow stats like this. So this is from the UNWTO. This was their Tourism Barometer report. They release it every year. I recommend you have a look through it. It shows where tourism is in the world, where it's been picking up, and all of that kind of stuff. And in 2019, we saw that there was 1.4 billion international arrivals, and everything was being hailed as really good in the tourism industry. Obviously, this is all pre-COVID. And we could see on this barometer where the tourism was, and every region in the world was on the up in 2019, which all sounded very positive. And the UNWTO came out and said that it's been the best ever year for tourism. And that kind of disturbed me a little bit, because it depends on what you mean by best. What's your measuring stick? If it's just purely on visitor numbers, then yeah, okay, it probably is the best. But is that the way we should be measuring tourism? Because all I was seeing was headlines like this, and I think we've all seen this over the past 2 or 3 years, about the so-called over-tourism, these tourism surges, which of course happened during the peak season months. So yeah, it didn't kind of sit right with me. We saw charts like this, which was the anticipated tourism growth to 2030 rather. Obviously, again, this was all done pre-COVID, but they were showing that all of their experts were predicting how many tourists we were going to have in the world by 2030. And they predicted that it was going to be 1.8 billion international arrivals by 2030. And that, these numbers, I don't know, what do they mean to you? That I don't deal in billions, I don't deal in millions, if I'm being very honest. So I always think that, these numbers are a little bit strange. But what I do know is that 1.5 billion was forecast to be hit in 2024, and we just hit that pretty much at the end of 2019. So that was a real cause for concern, because really we were looking at about 300 million international arrivals ahead of where we should have been, and I think that was a little bit of a cause for concern. Here you can sort of see it illustrated a little bit better. Just a quick point for all of you out there, and maybe you deal in millions and billions and you're not like me, but I don't deal in millions and billions. But what I always like to do to help people understand, the difference between a million and a billion, because it's hard to comprehend these big numbers. And it's a little fun exercise. If I was to say to you, go back 1 million seconds from this moment right now, do you know where you would be in time? And the answer is you would be about 12 days ago if you went back 1 million seconds from right now, 12 days ago. If you were to go back 1 billion seconds from right now, you'd be in 1988. It's a huge, huge difference between a million and a billion. And 300 million, which is the excess tourism that we're talking about seeing in 2019, if you were to go back 300 million seconds from right now, it would be 10 years, actually. So just to put a little bit of a perspective, when we see these big numbers, they are truly, utterly huge. And then we see the end result of those numbers in our different resorts. So we're going to see, pre-COVID, we were headed to see 2 billion before 2030. I think COVID obviously has put that into question, but the principles will absolutely remain the same, because when we come out of COVID, there is going to be the mother of all tourism surges. A variety of institutions have come out with data supporting this, including TripAdvisor, Forward Keys, Kiwi.com. They're all saying there's going to be the mother of all tourism surges, because everybody wants to get out of where they are. And, I'm guilty. I'm one of them as well. I want to get out too. So the relentless march of tourism has been going on for, well, do you know what? It's been going on since the end of the Second World War. We've seen more flights around the world, more international arrivals, more economic growth as a result of that tourism, which has been great. And for the most part, as an industry, what we learned is that basically tourism just goes up on the increase. If you're a Mediterranean country, you open up on the 1st of May, you get more visitors than you had the year before, just because you do, and you close on the 31st of October, and the job's done there or thereabouts. You make most of your money in your peak summer months, and everybody's happy. There might be a blip. Global financial crisis is the one that you can see on the screen there. In 2008, 2009, it was just a very small blip. The march of tourism went on, and I think the fear or the hope, depending on what side of the fence you sit on, is that with COVID, you've got the mother of all drop-offs in terms of tourism, but it quite possibly could just carry on the same trajectory that it was on before. And if it does, I think it's a bit of a mistake, but there we have it. But anyway, all of this excess tourism led to I suppose, a fall off in the quality of tourism that we were able to appreciate. So this is the kind of stuff that it led to. Your dream trip to Venice. I've never been to Venice, and I must admit, when I look at pictures like this, I think maybe I've missed the boat. Maybe I've literally missed the boat to go to Venice, because that's not an experience I want. That's not how I want to experience Venice, and I'm sure it's not for a lot of people. Want to relax on the beach? I mean, geez, that just looks like, hell on earth. Certainly, I don't want to be anywhere near that. I should point out as well, by the way, I hate crowds. That's one of the defining things about me. I can't stand crowds and stress, and it makes me cringe. So when I look at these pictures, I find them hard to look at. This is Iceland, again, famously suffered with overtourism. Actually live in these houses. This is their home. This is where they bring up their kids, and they're thronged with that many tourists all the time. So the impact on people's lives in communities is negatively affected. And I would say the tourism experience for all of these guys here, I mean, I don't know, are they having fun? I don't know. It's up for you to decide. Let me know in the comments. I don't think it looks like fun. Angkor Wat, somewhere else I've never been to, and I look at pictures like this and I think, holy Lord, no way does that look appealing to me. And what I find interesting about all of these photos is, these aren't the photos that you see on the website for that tour operator that's trying to sell you a trip to Cambodia or to Santorini. These aren't the photos that they show you. Another one here, this is a brilliant picture of the Louvre in Paris, and on many people's bucket lists to actually see the Mona Lisa. Well, if that's as close as you're going to get to the Mona Lisa, I don't know if you can even see it on your screens. It's right there in the far corner. Again, is that the experience that we as a tourism industry are providing? Is that the experience that people want? I don't think so. So the travel and tourism industry, we've had a penchant for telling mistruths. I think probably that's how the former president of the United States would say it. And I think we need to start being a little bit more truthful. And I think it's a big issue in the industry is one of trust. And so this is some images now of how we have inspired you to travel over recent years. These are the images that you see in the brochures, on the websites, on the blogs, all of this kind of media. And you see images like this saying, hey, come to Athens, come and see the Parthenon. It's wonderful. Stretch of beach, actually. And again, this has been used in promotional pieces that I've seen quite a lot to entice people to northern Spain. This is the Ponte della Paglia in Venice, beautiful bridge. Again, looks quite quiet, looks quite serene. And that's what we sold the destinations to you on. We sort of said, look, that's what it is. And this is what sort of concerned me, is because when I was setting up Low Season Traveller, I wanted to be, unlike any other travel organization out there. We're only going to sell the low seasons, and how we'll differentiate ourselves is we will have pictures that are only taken during the low seasons. And what I soon realized is that every other travel company out there is taking pictures taken during the low seasons, even though 70% of the visitation usually, is arrived during the peak seasons. And this is the experience that they actually have. So they were sold to via the last pictures. That's peak season Athens in the Parthenon. That's the experience that you're getting. They sold it to you by showing you that beautiful image, but that's your reality. This is the reality for Maya Bay. It had to close at the end of 2019 for a full year just to allow nature to try and reclaim back a little bit of what it was. It was utterly destroyed. The corals were destroyed, and it was seeing that many tourists every day with stacks of boats there. Again, that was the experience that they got, but what they were promised on the website was the images that you saw previously. This is Levant Beach during peak. Operators and travel agents, the 70% that go during the peak season, that's what experience they're going to get. So why aren't you showing us a picture of what we actually get when we book? It's dishonest. It's absolutely dishonest, because we don't know what we're going to get until we get there, and we have to trust our travel partners to be truthful with us about it. So that's a kind of a concern that I saw along the lines with over-tourism. Was it just highlighted to me how at times dishonest we have been. I put myself, by the way, there as well. We have been with consumers, and I don't think it's good enough anymore. So what I wanted to do then at this juncture is give you 13 reasons as to why we should embrace low season traveling. And of course, we've got a wonderful panel just joining me after this to help us learn a little bit more about these. But these are the 13 key reasons as I see it. By the way, I chose 13 deliberately, really, because most of these lists are top 10. And, low season travelers, I think we're the kind of people that like to, we literally go against the flow. So if everybody's going to one destination, we'll head to a different destination. If everybody's turning left, we'll turn right. And if everybody's doing top 10 lists, we're going to do a top 13 list. So that's why we've got 13, even though it is an unlucky number. Let's hope it's not unlucky this time. So first of all, the really obvious one for traveling during the low season, it's less crowded. Nobody really likes crowds. But if you're looking for a little bit more peace and tranquility, and if you're looking to cut literally and metaphorically your own path in life, then low season travel is the way to go. We get better service as low season travelers, and we really do. I've worked very closely with the hotel industry, and there's been a number of studies that highlight that the service levels in your average hotel, they tend to drop off the closer you get to full capacity, obviously, because, there are fewer staff to guests ratio. When it tends to be a little bit more empty, you tend to get much better service. And that's the same in cafes and restaurants and everywhere else, because people have got more time for you. The staff have got more time for you. So when we travel during the low season periods and the off-peak periods, we get better service. No queues or waiting. I mean, who enjoys standing around in a queue? For me, when we travel during the low seasons and, you go to Rome or wherever in the low season, you cannot beat the feeling of walking past markers that say 3 hours waiting time from here, and you're just zipping straight to the front and going straight in. That's a really nice feeling. But nobody enjoys queues and waiting around. And also it takes up our time, and our time is incredibly precious and valuable, more so than money, actually. We experience more in less time, partly because we're not queuing all of the time for all of the different attractions, but because of that lack of queuing and because we can fit more in. So we do tend to experience more in the destination than we would otherwise be able to if it was during the peak season. And that's a good thing because we want to experience as much of the destination as we possibly can and get underneath the culture of the destination. We have less competition for facility, the use of the facilities straight away, and that's a really nice positive boon as well. Number 6, we enjoy more interaction with the locals. Because there's a lack of crowds, the locals tend to have more time for the visitors that are there and time to engage and to speak with the visitors. So we get that interaction with locals. And low season travelers, I think generally, we're kind of culture vultures. We want to understand truly what it's like in the destination, and how you find that out is by engaging with the local population, and that's something that we really want to do, whether it's eating in a local restaurant or going to a local farmer's market. We avoid the travel chaos. Again, hard to believe right now when all of the airports are so quiet and empty, but on any given typical year, during the peak months, and when we're talking about the Mediterranean and Southern Europe countries, we're talking about those sort of 6 summer months, there's an incredible amount of pressure on the flight schedules. Now, none of us enjoy airports at the best of times, let's be absolutely honest, and I used to work with airports very closely, so I'm embarrassed to say that, but it's true. Airports are they're like a glorified car park. They're just how you get to the destination. It's a rite of passage. You just have to get through it. None of us particularly enjoy it. I always judge a good airport experience by the fact that if I can't really remember the airport experience, it must have been good, because I shouldn't have to remember it. Usually the only way I'll remember it is if I'm delayed there, if I'm hanging around, and all of that kind of stuff happens during the peak season. But also the flight schedules get really busy during the peak season, and if anything happens to one flight, it has this colossal knock-on effect to all of the others, and you have a departures board like the one that you can see on your screen. So we kind of avoid all of that because when we travel during the low season period, we tend not to get the travel chaos. We have increased security. That's the most basic of stuff. Again, it's linked to the lack of crowds, but pickpockets rarely come out when the streets are empty. That's just a fact. We pay less for flights. Again, kind of obvious, I suppose, but the likes of Ryanair, Volotea, Vueling, all these kind of airlines, they don't have a smaller fleet size in the low season. They've still got the same number of aircraft all year round. But they're just more challenged, obviously, during the low season periods. They might change the routes that they do and maybe the frequencies, but they still have to be flying their aircraft. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but when an airline, part of an airline operation means that for every minute the aircraft is on the ground, like you can see in this photo here, the airline's losing money. They're only making money when they're flying, which I know sounds crazy because, you've got fuel burn and everything else. But assuming that usually they have 80% capacity, they lose money when they're on the ground. So they need to keep flying, therefore they tend to reduce the prices. So we pay less for flights, which is very, very good. We also pay less for accommodation. Again, it's simple supply and demand. The demand increases in the peak season, the prices go up. The demand decreases in the low seasons, the prices come down. That means we get to stay in 5-star hotels for 4-star and lower prices, which is wonderful because we get better value for money, which is fantastic. Our experience is more unique. This is one of the key ones to me. I should have put this at number 1 or number 13 rather than number 11 stuck in the middle. But we get a more exclusive experience. Approximately 30% of all travelers, and it's probably less than that actually, get to see, for example, the awesome power of the surf at Nazare when it's truly pumping. And that's because 70% of all travelers to the region visit during the peak season months. They don't get to see that. They haven't seen it. Most people have not got to see Nazare pumping at the full size, and these are the biggest waves in the world if you're not familiar with it. And that's an experience that very few people get to see. We get to experience something that's pretty unique that most of our peers haven't seen. And that's one of those things I love about low season travel. I love to say, I went to this destination, but I went during the low season. And if they went during the peak season, I had a completely different experience. And it wasn't less of an experience. It was just a different experience. And that's really key, I think. Our presence is truly welcomed when we travel during the low seasons. And that's because we're visiting and spending cash at a time of the year when the local community actually needs it. During peak season, they've got all of the tourist crowds there that are spending money, the economy's booming, everything else. During the low season periods, many communities around the world and tourism communities, they really need tourism at that time, and they need the tourism cash. So when we travel during the low seasons, our presence is truly appreciated. And finally, and not the least, we get to feel good about our tourism. We get that warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that we are engaging in one of the most responsible and sustainable forms of tourism that there is. And that kind of feels good as well because, I've heard it said recently that we live in the era of guilt. And that struck a chord with me because, these days we feel guilty about the environment. We feel guilty about pollution. We feel guilty about traveling. If I go to the local shop and I go in the car, I feel guilty. I think, really I should have walked it. But, I was being lazy, or it was actually because of time that I took the car, but I feel guilty about it. And if I get my coffee cup, if it's a disposable one, I'm thinking, is this really a good thing? We feel guilty about so much these days. We truly live in the era of guilt. And for me, low season tourism and low season travel means that it's just one less thing to feel guilty about. If I go during the peak season, I am going to feel guilty that I'm contributing to over-tourism. I'm contributing to surges in tourism that can be damaging to the local communities. If I travel in the low season, my presence is a force for good. And that makes me feel good, basically. So look, now is the time. I know, we've got COVID that's hit us, but, travel is going to come back, and it's going to come back in the same way. And, I think that when we look at the trends these days, people are looking for more sustainable travel, responsible tourism. They're looking for cultural heritage. Cultural heritage makes up something like 60% of people said that they want a cultural heritage aspect to their travel. Cultural heritage is one of those things that It's there all year round. Those buildings are there all year round, not just in the peak season. And when we talk about cultural heritage as well, and we'll get onto this in the panel, that's food, that's wine, that's music, that's the Portuguese fado, it's dance, it's everything, and it's there all year round. You don't need to be there in July and August. Adventure travel, slow travel, travel without the crowds, it's all there to be experienced during the low seasons. So I'm getting towards the end now. You'll be glad to know how am I doing for time. Oh, pretty much spot on. So where do travelers go to find out where is the low season? Where is it the low season in April or in July? If I've got a week coming up in May, where is it? I want to go during the low season, but where in the world is it low season in May? If I Google low season Turkey or low season Portugal, I'll get a few articles. But what if my starting point is I know the month I want to travel, and I want someone to show me where in the world is it low season? Where's my options? Why is it the low season? Why would it be a great time to visit? Basically, where can I find honest, objective information about the pros and cons of traveling, frankly, anywhere in the world during the low season? And that's why we created Low Season Traveller, to be that central resource for low season travellers. A very, very small niche community, but nevertheless a very rapidly growing one. This is a warning. Shameless, utterly shameless self-promotion in the next 2 slides. Forgive me, but we got to do what we got to do during these times, right? This is the Low Season Traveller portal. It's full of beautiful images taken during the low seasons, I should point out, and I would urge you all to take a look at it and let me know what you think. Give us your feedback. We have destinations like the Algarve, where we've got different insider tips on the low season, good to know about the low season, food and drink to experience during the low season, all kinds of fun stuff. We also run a podcast every week. We've just started our 2nd series. In fact, we start it next week, which has got 15,000 unique listeners. So our community is growing all around the world in 120 countries. We've had a few on Portugal actually, so please do check them out. It's available on iTunes and on Spotify. And if you'd like to join our community, please do feel free to join us. We are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, you name us, we're there. We're on Clubhouse now as well. And it's just search out for Low Season Traveller and we're there. If anybody would like to reach out to me separately at the end of this, obviously, please let me know and we'll join a room or whatever, a network at the end of this. But you can also contact me on jed@lowseasontraveller.com if I can be of any help whatsoever. And that is me for now. So without further ado, we have our panel coming up next. So I think we go straight onto the panel. So if our panelists could come on up to the screen. Have we got a question there? Oh, we've got a question which I'll just take now as well from Maria. Thank you, Maria. Hi, Jared. Wouldn't you say this issue goes much further than high-low season and should be focused on the offer within each destination that should go further than the obvious places that are currently sold? Thanks a million for that question, Maria. I'll just take that very briefly. Sorry, Teresa. Hi. I'm just going to take that question. Well, actually, Teresa, what am I doing? Do you have any thoughts on that one? Maria's saying that she thinks, with regards to the low seasons, that maybe we should change where we're sending people. So instead of sending people to the usual destinations, I suppose, Maria, you're saying create new destinations, new tourism destinations to send people to. Do you have any thoughts on that, Teresa?
I totally agree. I totally agree because, well, there's lots of things to do. And of course, if you go to the Louvre, to Paris, you want to see Mona Lisa. But come on, there are so many other museums. And talking about Portugal and talking about wines, you don't need all to go to the same winery. You don't need to all to go to the same restaurant or wine bar. There are lots of offer. And if you want to go away from the crowds, because, come on, like you said before, who likes to be on the line, on a queue? Who likes to pre-book a table in a restaurant 3 months in advance? So yes, there is tour operators, they sell the same for the last 20 years.
Yeah, I think
because the traveler changed. The traveler looks for different things.
Yeah. I think as an industry, just to add on to that, Teresa, because I agree with you, and I agree with the point that you're making, Maria. I think the travel industry, I always say it, but we got fat and lazy. We got fat and lazy because we had growth non-stop every year for the past 50 years, and we got really lazy, and we just did the same stuff that we've always done, and we promoted, as tourism boards, we promoted the same stuff we've always done. And we didn't start thinking outside the box. And I think that's the advantage now of maybe the COVID situation will help spur us on. But I think, the advantage of all of this now is that we're starting to think differently a little bit about this.
Well, as idea, if the recipe works, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Okay? I know. I don't work that way. Who knows me? Does that? If I do this, next time I want to do this, the next time I want to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
I think our customer, let's talk by the name, our customer, our client is much more ahead than ourselves.
Yeah.
We stay in the same, providing the same kind of services for the last 20 years. I have clients that ask me the same thing for the last 15 years. But the traveler, the client, the customer wants different stuff.
Yeah.
And if he cannot find that in a tour operator, he's going to find it on the internet.
Yeah.
And people lose work.
Completely agree. That was a brilliant question, Maria. Thank you very much for seamlessly shifting us into our panel discussion. I should look, first of all, before we get onto it, and I do want to jump straight in. I just want to officially welcome João Ministro, who's the Executive Director of Proactive Tour, Marta Cabral, who's the CEO of Rota Vincentina. My accent's dreadful, so many apologies, Marta, sorry. Teresa Gomez, of course, who you've just heard from, who is a wine educator, and President Carlos Bernardes, who's the president of the town of Torres Vedras. Very delighted to have you all here on the panel. I suppose, look, first of all, just by way of introduction, if you could each just give us, 2 or 3 minutes introduction to yourselves and what your initial thoughts are as to low season travel. Starting off with you, Teresa, just because you're the top of the screen.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, I inspire people to love Portuguese wine, basically, through wine classes and wine tours. Now mainly wine classes online, but that is my goal, my mission is to inspire you to love Portuguese wine and for you to be more aware and with trust when choosing a bottle of Portuguese wine, no matter if it's in Portugal or where do you live. I work in a wine business since 1997 and on my own since 2004 as an independent sommelier. So when I say I'm a sommelier, usually people ask, so which restaurant do you work? Well, I don't work in restaurants. Like Jeb said, I'm a wine educator and I do actually wine presentation with that mission in my mind. About travel to Portugal and on a wine travel in low season, well, I must say that Portuguese wine is the same price any matter of the day of the year. And as you know, Portuguese wine is very, very affordable. But yes, it's a completely different way of living the wine travel, okay? If you want just to say, as a checklist, yes, I went to Douro wine region or I went to Alentejo wine region. As a checklist, yeah, come here anytime. If you want to experience Douro wine region, if you want to experience Alentejo wine region, come in a low season. So basically my statement here, and I can talk about that with all the other guests here in the panel and with Jed and with you also through the chat, is there's lots to do, to see and to enjoy in a winery or doing some wine travel when there is no summer, no harvesting time, or no grapes hanging on the vines.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that opener, Teresa. João, you're next on my screen, so give us a little short introduction to yourself and your thoughts.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. Very nice presentation, Jared. I appreciate very much. My name is João. I'm from Algarve. We are a tour operator working in sustainable tourism, more with nature and culture, mostly in the countryside. And one of the main things I always talk about the low season and the going to visit the Algarve out of the high season is that you can show, you can give a nice perspective of places that during the high season people don't know. So it's the low season traveling. It has a kind of also responsibility because it gives a chance to visit other places and spread the people in the territory. And as you know, in Portugal, we have this situation with high demand on the coastline, but also, and then not many people live in the countryside. We have even a big problem of people living the countryside. So traveling and visiting Algarve in Portugal in the low season, it's a very important thing to do also to bring people to the interior, to the countryside, and to help the local economy. So that's what we try to do all year. Mostly, of course, in the low season. We don't work so much in the high season because we work a lot in the mountains, in the nature, and we provide the different kinds of activities like walking, food tours, cultural things. And yes, I truly believe that the future will be more and more these kind of things. People want to get to know the real and genuine Portugal, and to visit and to get a sense of the real and genuine Algarve or Portugal, you need to go to these places and get away from the high season. So, well, this is my first impression. Thank you.
Thanks for that, João. I think just to sort of key onto something on that, something that I've noticed in the past few years, a little bit of a change linked to exactly what you're saying is I think there was this Instagram effect over recent years, which was, you have your selfie taken near the main big tourist spot. And I think there was this whole ethos of, see the world before you die. And I think it's changing now to experience the world before you die. And I equate it, I showed everybody there at the beginning a map of the world that I've been, the places I've been to. And it sounds very impressive. But João, if you were to ask me in honesty, how many of those destinations I have truly got underneath the skin of, maybe 10, maybe not even 10, if I'm being really honest. And it's important. So that for me, I think is the way in which it is going. I agree with you. I think it's about experiencing in a deep way and having a deeper connection with the destinations that we're visiting. I think that's the trend that I'm seeing that we can key into. Thank you so much for that opener. Very, very much appreciated. Carlos Bernardes, welcome.
Hello, guys. Hello, everybody. It's a big pleasure to stay here in this event. I'm sorry, my English it's not very, very fluent, but it's a contribute of Torres Vedras from this day. It's most important the low season in the territories. Torres Vedras it's have around 20 kilometers of coast and promote the coast the sustainable areas. For example, Torres Vedras it's a green destination promoted one foundation. It's here in Netherlands, and to me it's very, very important this award because the promotion the sustainable tourism and promote the big spaces for the people. We have 20 kilometers of coastline. We are 40 kilometers north of Lisbon. We have two events important in low sessions in Santa Cruz, the beach of Santa Cruz, the qualifying of the World Surf League in April, for example, and we have an event with many kinds of sports of the waves, from the surf, bodyboard, longboard, skimboard, kayak surf, wave ski, body surf. It's different, and the people come during a year. It's important from the territory, and we have important in the territory the surfing schools from promote the deck experience and in the national or the international visitors. It's important the surf schools in the territory and promote the coast of line Torres Vedras from promotion of the families. It's important from this destination around the families. Another point, most important from the territory promotion, it's wine tourism. The wines of Lisboa, it's branding the wines here in Torres Vedras, and Torres Vedras has elected European Wine City at 2018. It's important from the territory, from the different kinds to view the vineyards and the proprietaries of the wineries, and it's very important to promote the low stations during a year. And the many companies of the wines, it's very agreeable today because we prepare one route, the National Road 9, and promote around the National Road 9 a route of wine tourism. This is the simple examples, but most important from the promote the low stations in the territory of Torres Vedras.
Fantastic. Sounds amazing. And is the surf tourism there? Is that? Forgive my ignorance, Carlos. Is that relatively recent? Is that relatively new, or has that been there all this time? The surf.
No, ever many years here in the coast, around 20 years. But today the surf, it's very experienced, very important, and promote the territory. And I think it's a nice from the people come to Torres Vedras and come one time, second time, third time. This is most important.
I see it a lot on I follow. So I'll put my hands in the air. I'm not a big wave surfer, not big waves, but I do.
No big waves. Big waves. It's in Nazaré, north of Santa Cruz.
I do enjoy surfing, and I follow a number of surf channels on social media actually, and I see Portugal all the time on these different channels, especially at the moment through winter. I just think it's I just seem to be seeing an awful lot of Portugal when we're talking about surf, which I think is fantastic. Super. Thank you so much for that, Carlos, for that wonderful introduction. On now to Marta Cabral. Marta, how are you? Good afternoon. Thank you for your patience. How are you?
Hello, good afternoon. Well, thank you also for the invitation. Very pleased to be here with you. Regarding the topic, I'm representing here Rota Vicentina, which is a private non-profit association from the southwest of the country, so West Alentejo and West Algarve. So we are an association of local people and companies. João Ministro here is one of our partners. And mainly what we do for the past almost 10 years is to focus on how to build a cooperative model for sustainable tourism, including both the private sector and the public sector. We started implementing walking trails, and this was, very good choice because very quickly people started to come, and the main goal at the beginning was exactly to try to balance a bit the pressure on the high season, summer, because this is a coast, natural park, wild coast, over 100 kilometers, so really yummy place to go. So of course, competing with summer holidays, we felt that hiking trails along the wild coast and the natural park would be a very good option, and it turned out to be. But I would like also to say that, we work mainly low season, shoulder seasons, clearly not high season. And for us, the thing is really about spreading. So spreading the pressure along the year, but also spreading along the area. So it means that, yes, you cannot all come at the same time, but also not go all to the same area, because there is no need. The area is amazing, and what we are trying to do is to really try to work with the local people and the local companies to make it more attractive all along the region. Of course, the ocean is very powerful as an attraction, but we really feel that, and also according to what you were saying about this trend of looking for an experience, I would say to a kind of an immersion experience where you can, for at least for a few days, to feel like you live in the place, not even that you experience the place, but I think the fantasy is not how it will look like on Instagram, but how can I live my life in this place for a few years, but, really feeling part of the place, not just glue my own fantasy to the place. And just to finish, I think that local communities are the key point here. So it's really not about the nature or the landscape or, the restaurants, and that's also all very important, but I really feel that we are in a moment where people, and with people I mean also souls, we are not just, we are not just looking nice on the pictures, we are whole people. And how can that be part of the equation? How can you live with the local people and all of the people, either visitors or locals, are part of the system? How can you invite both parts to think about it, to really be cooperative and co-responsible to create a healthier system? And yes, low season, or at least the not super crowded seasons, are the only way possible. So that for now would be my presentation.
Thank you very much. By the way, I've just got to say, you win the best backdrop award for today so far. I will swap places with you. Certainly better than mine. That's a really interesting point, though. I think one question then that I've got for the panelists, and any of you can have a pop at this, but we're saying that people are looking for more immersive experiences to truly get under the skin of the destination, to mix and live as the locals do. How can they do that in a short space of time? How can they do that in a week, say, for example? How, what can we offer them? How can we get them really to enjoy that in a week? And what kind of an experience can they have? Who'd like to take that? Nobody.
I can.
Go ahead.
I can answer.
Yeah. Go, Marta. Yeah.
Me, Marta?
Yeah.
Well, we are working on this subject for a long time now. So it's really not about, twisting your fingers and hoping it will happen. You really need to work on it. So what we are trying to do is working with, as I said, both the companies and the local people. So, for example, João here is a very good example of how to do it. And we are trying to open it even wider, in the sense that we are trying to, for the past two years, to think with the local people. And when I mean think, I mean really proper meetings, workshops, moments to think about it. How can this be part of your life if you are an artist, a local producer, a fisherman, an artisan? How can this be part of your life, of your daily life? And of course, not everyone is willing and ready to do this. So we are starting with some people, and also with the touristic companies and the tour operators and accommodations to do the same. How can these not touristic resources can be part of your offer? So we are combining all of this, and we are presenting the results within 3 weeks. We are organizing an event called Semana ID, end of March, online. So the idea is to already present the first results of this match, what kind of experiences and programs you can really enjoy, really purchase, and what does that mean? From here, we hope that both visitors, tourists, and the local people and companies will be inspired to make it grow. So the idea here is to offer a first collection of examples and release it online with prices, and it's really a product that we were very careful to build with strength and respectful to the local people and culture. And there is all the theory behind it. What does it mean, local identity? In fact, is it about tradition? Is it about innovation? Is it about sustainability? How can you really make it not just folklore? How can you make it authentic? And what exactly does this mean? So what I would like to say is, I believe we need to work on it in a theoretical point of view, and then bring it up as a product and work from there, and make it small but make it nice.
Yeah, completely agree. João, what's your experience on this? You're sort of putting this into practice, I guess, at the moment.
Yes.
What's your take on this?
Yes, we have been doing this already for several years. Our background, before we have the agency, we were working already in the territory as a consultant and development projects. And the fact is that to look for this kind of experience, one of the things it's of course the program. So for people that want to emerge and to go deep in the experience, they need to look for the programs, of course. It depends on the programs, and they are quite well. There is already several operators selling very interesting programs where people can just stay in a small village and experience the way of living in the village. So that's the answer. It's mostly about the program where people can choose. And we have been doing this. We have been putting people in contact with a very small village in the Algarve and also in Alentejo, where people can experience the traditions, the way of life, the nature activities. Low season have something very interesting, which I always say this. The low season in Portugal, it has very nice things because it's the period where people can really get in contact with the local culture and nature. If you look on the calendar, starting from September to May, you get, for me, the best season of Portugal, because you get the season where the farmers start working in the countryside. You have people picking the olives, you have people collecting the grapes for the wine, you have people collecting the mudronho for the fire water, you have people making sweets, you have the craftsmen, so the life in the countryside gets very busy in this moment. So it's a very nice moment to go there and see how people work. On the other hand, it's the time when you can get a very nice close with nature. You get all the birds coming in the winter. You have the migration of birds in spring. So you have the spring, which is very nice for botanic, for flowers, for plants. So the low season, it's amazing season. And of course, it's the best season when people can go for outdoor. Nobody likes to walk in August. That's why I don't do so many activities in August. The time of the year when I closed my office, it's in August. I don't have activities in August because nobody wants to walk with 40 degrees or going to a place to see birds and see lots of people, of course. So the magic about the low season is these kind of things. And of course, it's a question of looking for the program, but I think there are already nice programs, and you can get a very easy, like you said, very, very good relation between price, authenticity, very high quality, which is very good, and security, which is also very nice here. So it's about the program, I think.
It's interesting. One of the early companies that got in touch with us was a company that works very closely with Visit Portugal, actually, and they work with us on promoting cycling tours and walking tours during the low season months. And they were saying, really popular. But yeah, cycling. I hadn't realised cycling is But Portugal's very good for cycling, and especially in the low season. And I hadn't realised at all until they sent me this operator sent me through all of the different options for the cycling tours. It looks absolutely out of this world, and I'm not even a cyclist, but that looks fantastic. But something else that you were talking about there, you were saying how the farmers, and I guess Teresa, you'll be able to speak maybe of this, with some of the farms, the works on the vineyards, etc. I know people in the Republic of Ireland who are farmers, and they've been approached to have people that want to work on the farm, and they think it's hilarious because people are prepared to pay to sleep on the farm and to work on the farm under the supervision of the farmer. And they, in Ireland, the farmers, they can't get over this. They're thinking this is just crazy. I mean, we have to do it for a living. But that's that strength of desire that people want to, if you're from the city and you've never really experienced that, I kind of get it. You want to live as a farmer for 2 weeks. And I think that you would find that really, really refreshing, different, hard work for sure, but find that different. Do you sort of see that there could be a demand for that in Portugal as well? Or is there a demand currently for that?
About milking the cows and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But yes, people pay to do harvest, hand picking harvest, yes. I must just add to what Ron said, that it's also in the low season that we make cheese, okay? So also very important. Based on your idea that if you come to Portugal for 1 week, what can you do? Well, I'll suggest allocate 2 or 3 days to go outside of the city and stay in a small village, or in this case, in a winery, because several wine producers at this moment in Portugal, they offer this type of luxury hotels. They also offer a small place where you can stay. So you have all kinds of bed and breakfast in a winery nowadays. And you can do lots of things. The high season for harvesting time in Portugal is September. But we start harvesting beginning of August and go till middle of October. And like I said before, there is the idea that, it's only nice to see a vineyard when there are some grapes hanging. Yeah, it's nice for the Instagram. That's it. Okay, but again, like Sean said and very well, who stands in a vine at 12 o'clock or 2 in the afternoon with 40 Celsius degrees? When harvesting in some regions, it stops at 11 a.m. because nobody can hold the sun and the heat. So after the harvesting, we have something that it's lovely. And I think there is no tour operator that uses that. That is the changing of the colors of the leaf on the vine.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like in Canada that you do all those kinds of travels to see the changing of the leaves. It's beautiful. And you can do this in November, okay? You can learn and able to help and to do it yourself other things like pruning, January, February. That is very important. The vine is asleep, we know, but why you are going to cut the vine is going to somehow affect the production on the following cycle of the vine. And that is amazing how the man can somehow control that. And you as a traveler can cut and say, I help doing this vine when it releases. It's a farming, so there's lots of things to do. People wake up earlier, I know. We do the pruning in very cold days, but again, most of people, only except Portuguese, our winters are not cold and our summers are not so hot. So just for us, winter is very cold, which is not, basically. So you can help a lot. You can see the vines growing. You can do bird watching, the importance of birds and other animals for the sustainability and the ecosystem of the vine to grow. And of course, in a very Portuguese way, when there is vine, there is olive trees, there is some cheese, some smoked meat, so also can learn, and that we do on the low season. The killing of the pig happens in January, February, in the cold months, so you can help doing the classic chorizo, for instance. You can, about food, of course, is all year round, but if you talk about seasonable products, the killing of the pig for someone that can bear and stand that, because it's not a nice show to see. Happens in January, February. We have lots of sweets connected with the Easter time. Is where, I'm sorry for people that eat meat, I don't know what eat meat neither, but the lamb, it's also connected with Easter. The sweets. And of course, like you were saying, cycling. I do indoor cycling at the gym. I don't do outdoor. I'm scared, to be honest, to fail and to break it apart. But it's huge. So I want to visit the winery, like happens in Rota Vicentina, that I know at least crosses one of the walking tracks, crosses a winery or a wine state of a friend of mine, at least one. You're also going to enjoy wine or a winery just passing by or passing through, riding a bicycle. And why not stop and have...
That's got to be more dangerous though, surely, Teresa, come on.
So, and you have people that are more relaxed. And even if they don't speak English, there's always a way to communicate and to help and to give a glass of water and a piece of cheese and talk. You can also see how bread is made in the real meals. I remember about the huge quantity of meals around Torres Vedras, a very windy area, and where bread is made, because like we were saying, we buy everything made. Okay, some of us here have more than 45 or 50 years, but for the big number of travelers, which are millennials, they bought everything in the supermarket. They know how to make bread, how to make cheese. So having that connection, it's amazing. So you can just somehow escape 2 or 3 days of your week in Lisbon, because I'm in Lisbon, so I'm not going to talk against Lisbon, but just go away for 2 days and go away into the countryside. Once you are in Lisbon or Porto, means traveling for 1 hour.
Yeah.
That is nothing.
I think it's interesting when you're saying about fruit and vegetables, and it's really true. A lot of kids. So I've got 2 young daughters upstairs being very quiet. To be fair to them, they're being very good. But they sometimes don't know where how the most simplest of fruits and vegetables are grown, because they're used to having them as ingredients, as part of something, but they don't know what the raw vegetable looks like or where it comes from. And I think that's it. I suppose it's a little bit linked with this kind of, there's a little bit of a drive at the moment to kind of return to nature. And I think we live these high-tech lives. We're all working remotely at the moment due to different lockdowns and everything else, so it's even more high-tech than ever before. I think there's an element we're looking to try and return to simpler times. We're looking to try and disconnect. Carlos, your particular region, you were talking before, and you'd mentioned that in Torres Vedras, it's a blue destination. I know that you're very keen on sustainable tourism. Talk to us about what sustainable tourism means in Torres Vedras.
Oh, it's the sustainable view, prepare the environmental and the social and economic. It's most important, this relationship with the partners in the stakeholders having the Torres Vedras and around the region. For example, in the blue economy, I said the surf, but for example, the one product we need today, it's most important for the Torres Vedras and the region, I think so. We need the tour operators with this concept from the people come to the territory. And for example, we have the lines of Torres Vedras come to the River Tejo to Atlantic, and it's we have a route, and we need this relationship with the seafood, for example, and promote with the fishermen, and promote the quality of the food, and in the restaurants have this view, and promote the many activities around of the here, and it's important this view, this concept integrated everybody, and promote the territory by the blue economy, by the heritage. It's important from the lines of Torres Vedras, for example, this destination, and I think it's complementary to the view of this meeting.
Yeah, I agree completely. Actually, when you talk there about fishing as well, that's another one where I could imagine that people would actually want to go out and learn more about fishing and about the relationship with the ocean as well. And I don't know if that's a product at the moment, but it's something I'd certainly be interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Carlos. We've got a question coming. If anybody's got any questions out there, please do ping up your questions because we can all see them. I don't know if we can read them. Everyone's putting their glasses on now. A question from, is it Anna Kuna? What about the possibility of future of traveling with a purpose of contributing to planet conservation? So what about the possibility of future of traveling with the purpose of contributing to planet conservation? Marta, I'm going to single you out on that because I think you're probably best addressed to take on that one. What do you think?
Well, you did address this question in your presentation, that the way we travel, even if we don't do anything specific about planet, Earth, whatever, it has such a huge impact. We really need to think about it. Again, when you go, where you go, and what you do, how you spend your money, how you're not just trying to get away with spending nothing, and trying to understand that this is money is part of the planet, of the system, of the ecosystem. But if you want to address it in a more specific way, we've been working mainly the maintenance of our trails are done with voluntaries. So we have one person on the team, but we have 700 kilometers. So, and she's 50 kilos and really tiny, really cute girl, but she's not. So she's counting on a big network of voluntaries, local people, but more and more we feel that we need to open this to visitors, and even tour operators can, include such an activity in their programs, because it's actually really nice. You still walk, not in the same rhythm, but you still enjoy the trail, but it's much more, okay, you can do some, paintings, some cuttings. We also have heavier work, but mainly it's really, it's a gathering. It's about teamwork. It's about organizing. It's about chatting and, getting to know a group. So it's really nice. And we have some specific work, for example, with, alien plants. We have a program with this to try to fight it. So we have specific works on field. But I would say we ourselves are still working on it. So it's not ready to go. So tourists at this moment, they can participate as voluntaries just like a local person. But we would like to organize this a bit more as a service, as a touristic service.
Yeah, completely agree. Thank you very much for that, Marta. I hope that answers your question, Anna. Another question from Anna. Gosh, you're very keen, Anna. I love this. Being tourism such an important world industry, and it is, for those of you that don't know, it contributes 11% of global GDP is contributed via travel and tourism. How could it further contribute to planet conservation? Who wants to take that on? How can tourism contribute more to planet conservation? My initial thoughts on that is possibly about education. Yeah. I think the more that we travel, the more that we can actually understand the effects of our travel, and especially when you're looking at farming and everything else, you can see the effect of the environment. I mean, look, we can all see that. I think in terms of cultural heritage, and maybe someone wants to jump in on this one. Yeah. I'm really passionate about the protection of cultural heritage. Because, cultural heritage is something which, as a friend of mine says, it's the invisible skin that binds us all together. It's where we came from and it's who we are is all wrapped up in our cultural heritage. And once cultural heritage is gone, like with any other extinction, it's gone forever. You can't replant it. You can't regrow it. When it's gone, it's gone. And I think that tourism can play a big role in protecting and conserving cultural heritage for future generations. But what does our panel think? What do you think?
Can I give some?
Please.
Well, I totally agree. Well, for people that are constantly reading and trying to keep up with what's happening, the discussion nowadays about sustainability and tourism and the role that tourism have in the nature and culture, it never has been so high in this moment. We have the Green Pact of Europe, which talks a lot about tourism also. For example, Portugal, until 2 weeks ago, there was a sustainable program for the tourism of Portugal that was in discussion. So Portugal will have in the next months a national plan for sustainable tourism. So things are quite strong nowadays about sustainability and also the responsibility of tourism. And I think this is a very, very interesting question because for example, in the Algarve, where tourism is a very important activity, the question is, what's the role of tourism in keeping the Algarve alive, namely the culture? So I think there is a lot to do, to be honest. There is a lot of things to do. And I think there is also a question of the truth, like Garrett told a while ago about trust and truth in tourism. There is also a kind of truth and responsibility in the two operators. Because in the end, if we want to do a real responsible tourism, we need to give back something to the territory. I will give you our example. Before I start the company, I was working in the NGO, environmental NGO. I used to work almost 20 years there. So I'm very much connected with the nature and also culture issues. And I start the company saying to myself that I will continue to do the same, but working in tourism in a responsible way. I will do the same, but in a private way. So what we do in fact? Well, just give you two examples. In all our tour programs, there is an eco tax, which we ask our clients, which go directly to fund local projects. To help reforestation, every year we do some reforestation with local organizations. We do some conservation projects in partnership with the Nature Conservation Institute. And also we have a project called Projeto Taza, which is a project which is the main purpose is to preserve the traditional crafts in the Algarve. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we have been doing in these last years, it's also teaching young people that want to learn the crafts, because the crafts are disappearing. We have been losing every year, every month, people and their knowledge, which has been passed through generations, and people are dying, and the knowledge is disappearing. But nowadays we understand that this knowledge is very important because it's a sustainable knowledge. So we need to keep these things alive. And we are supporting every year several actions to preserve these crafts. Courses, supporting young people to stay on the village to work on the crafts, making products with designers and the artisans, and this is something which we do it we are quite happy about this, because it's something we do back to the territory. And I think in the future, to be honest, I think everybody should do the same. A little bit. If everybody gives a little bit, we are going to preserve the planet and the craft and the culture, but it's a big issue nowadays. I think it's a big issue, and just to finish, I'm a little bit, well, not completely believer that things will change completely, to be honest, after COVID, because we are saying that things must change. But I think the main industry are waiting that everything to go back as normal as before COVID. I hope not, because it's obvious that some things need to change. So I hope, of course, we can contribute in a very positive way, and we have a role to do it, and we can do it.
Thank you so much for that, Shell. Thank you. I agree with you, by the way, on a lot of talk in the travel industry about the recovery. And I'm with you, Shell. I think we need to think very carefully what we mean by recovery, because if recovery means having what we had, in 2019, I don't think that's sustainable for the future. I think the path that we were on was not taking us to a good place for a lot of communities, cultures, for the environment, for the planet, and I think things have to change. But we shall see. There's a lot of pent-up demand out there. I'm checking on the time. We've got about 10 minutes left. So I think what I'd like to do at this point, we haven't got any other questions. Oh, we've got a comment here from Christina. People in the Algarve are quite used to low season. We have to invent ourselves year after year in low season. It's just a matter of trying to keep in line with the trends. Yeah, completely agree with that, Christina. I think a lot of it is just educating people in source markets as to what the offering is in the low seasons, as much as anything else. And I think, we in the source markets, like myself at Low Season Traveller, we've got a responsibility to you guys to communicate the message and communicate the offering. And we need to do better on that, frankly. So thank you very much for that comment. In the last 10 minutes, what I'd like to do is invite each of our speakers to, I suppose, sum up for us their final thoughts on tips for exploring Portugal during the low season, and maybe also just touch on their hopes for the future. Given where we are in the world at the moment with COVID and in some form of lockdown or whatever else, just sum up for us your final thoughts, including your hopes for the future. Starting with you, Teresa, because you're the top of my screen.
Lucky me.
Yeah.
Tips how to go back to tourism. We have a short memory, and come on, everyone here that knows that when we want to travel, even if you are working in the travel business, when we want to travel, it takes hours or days to plan a trip, to book a place to stay, to book a driver, to book a visit. So yes, I understand travel agencies with an office are easy. But again, if you want something exclusive, if you want something unique, if you want to be in contact with real people, not only providers or they are there for the show. So with people that in their daily life, they share their daily life with us, travelers, or travel agencies need to change the offer, something that we were talking at the beginning, or travelers will be using more and more and more online travel agencies. Because at this moment, and in the last 3 years, online travel agencies are offering these down-to-earth, these face-to-face with local communities. And they open the door and they're able for, since one traveler to small groups, because that is also sustainability, to be in contact with someone that shows their craft. And yes, Portuguese crafts are losing. They are disappearing because we have a very not nice way that we keep the things for ourselves, like the secret. I know how to do this. I'm not going to share to anyone else. And even if a few decades ago, the idea was to share the craft with the son or the daughter, nowadays they go to university, now that they go to the city, so there is no one to share with. And some crafts, and I'm thinking about crafts, I'm talking about traditions, songs, ways of living, they are losing and disappear. So we need to get new blood for these crafts and traditions to survive and to share with other people. And so many people visit Portugal, foreigners, that were in touch with a couple of crafts, and they moved to Portugal to continue that crafts, like building a guitar, learning how to sing fado, or even buying a farm and start producing vegetables and wine. So that's a way to travel, is for us to know more, to be able to eat and drink more, and to be more honored and to pay the real price for the products and for the services. So I hope this is something that we are more aware to this almost 1 year in home. And when you travel, we have more respect for the people that are opening their doors, that are opening the car, the hotel, the restaurant, and be more aware about the pain that is behind. That I think we are more sensitive about that, and I think it's important not to forget. And even in the city, we've been talking a lot about nature and all that, but also in the city you can have, you can visit the city and stay in the city and be quite sustainable. Not to be in a line for a monument and be with more hundreds of people in the same monument, but probably there are so many museums, there are so many monuments in Lisbon, because why everyone goes to the same 5? Why all tour operators, they sell the same 5? Let's look for others. Let's go to a house museum instead of a huge museum. So let's spread. Even in the city, it's possible to spread and to visit other places, and there you have a more unique and genuine contact with the locals, and it's also a way to learn the history, not the big history, not going to visit the big museums, but probably go to a house museum and know the history of a writer or a painter or someone that had a love about something and did a collection and left that collection for a house museum, and will also learn to aid other things. But again, this demands time to arrange for these visits. So probably that is it's a niche market for the moment. Hopefully it's a niche that is going to grow in the following years, but probably it's also a way for travelers or tour operators to offer different travels, different ways to know the countries. So that is somehow my hope, because there's something that was already start to be built and made, and it was something that I was aware about travelers was they want to go. I do one process in my house where I live, and people are, wow, finally I can see a house of a Portuguese person from the inside, because they used to close all the curtains in the evening opposite to other countries. So that simple thing that is going into a local house of someone that is Portuguese was like, okay, I never thought about that. I was just doing the one class in my house because I cannot afford to pay for a restaurant or an office just to open the door for one guest. So I need to do it in my house. It's not profitable. But those little things that for us is the basic, and we don't give importance as travelers. That is what makes the difference. So be aware of that in our daily life, and of course, at the end, it's part of our way of being. It's a part of our way of being as a person. So I don't know if I answer completely, but it's more a call to action.
That's good.
What do you think?
Do you know what? It reminded me of years ago. This is a slight segue, but years ago, I used to work for a company. You're familiar with IKEA?
Yeah.
You know, the Swedish furniture store. We were building a new IKEA store in the UK. And what we did is we went to different people's homes to find out what the IKEA should look like, you know, because they have these room sets set up. And that was the first time, this is over 20 years ago, and that was the first time that I realized that people in different countries, their living rooms are massively different. And it's just a small point when you're saying about letting people into your homes. The amount of times we travel and go on holiday, and if we stay in a hotel, we haven't really got any clue as to what life is like for the local people. And when you actually go into a local person's home, even though it's not a million miles away, it's just Portugal, UK, it's not far away. But actually the way in which the living room is set up actually is very different in many ways. And the same then could be of the kitchen or anything else. And it's these little differences that I just absolutely love. But I relate to that completely. Thank you so much, Teresa. And thank you for being a wonderful panelist. Carlos, have you got some final thoughts for us, please?
Yeah, I think it's transformed the new vision of the travels. The travels, I think today with a pandemic, I believe it's possible to translate the massive tourism to the slow tourism and lifestyle tourism. I think it's a future, and the territories prepare this view. For example, Torres Vedras, it's a little territory. And I think the people come to the little territories if they offer its out level quality. I think it's most important from the offer of the tourism, and the people come and see this vision around the model, promote the lifestyle, promote the landscape, promote the heritage. Promote the food, the wines. It's different territories have wines in Portugal. Torres Vedras, it's one of them. I think it's this is the new vision from the youngers. The youngers, I think the youngers have this in the schools promote this kind of the tourism sustainable. I think so, and I think it's make the travel and make the opinion of the many different kinds of people. It's important from the territories. It's important from the tour operated. It's important from the ecosystem around of the tourism. I think it's this is a future from the promote the sustainable tourism in the world.
I think it sounds like you're quite optimistic for the future, Carlos, in terms of sustainable tourism. And I must admit, something that you were saying there with regards to the younger generation, when I see my daughters are 14 and 12, and they really know their stuff when it comes to the environment, to sustainability, to being responsible citizens. And I'm really impressed, because when I was 12 or 14, I wasn't as sort of environmentally or socially conscious as the younger generation. And my experience is that the younger generation, I think they're better at this than we are. And that fills me with optimism as well. But you're quite optimistic about the next generation too, right?
I think so. The new generation, I think so. It's sometimes many youngers come to particularly surf and come to the territory. We have around 20, 21, 22 years old, and we make the prepare a tour and go to the winery. It says, "What? I make surf and take wine. Oh, it's beautiful."
Wow.
It's the best from the young. It's a new experience.
Yeah.
I think it's important to promote this kind of the territories and offer of the territories. I think it's perfect in the future, and I believe in the sustainable tourism.
Very good. Thank you very much for your final remarks, Carlos. And again, thank you for being a wonderful panelist today. Marta, you're up next. Final thoughts from you before we go, please.
I thought it was João. I was not ready. No, I'm kidding.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding.
I'm keeping on your toes, Marta. That's all I'm doing.
No, I would really make a bit of a reflection on, I was thinking how much tourism might be the one commercial activity that represents the most people's lives and people's lifestyle and people's options. So this is, it's very difficult not to be just a mirror of the real life. The way we travel is a mirror of the real life, of our daily life. There is no way to have a sustainable tourism or to be a sustainable tourist if I don't have it, if I don't embrace it in my daily life, the way I eat, I go to work, everything. So basically, this goes to both, consumers and providers. We really need to embrace it as a lifestyle. And to be more specific to what you asked, what we can offer, and if you don't mind, a bit of shameless self-promotion.
Absolutely, I love that.
So as I said, we are working on a new offer. So I would invite everyone that would like to know a bit more to step on our social media. We will release all that is new in the end of March with this big event. And we are at this precise moment, I'm receiving few shots. We are filming a few programs and experiences to give you a nicer perspective of what we are preparing, and I believe it's a beautiful combination between nature, land, food, culture, and soul, the local people's soul. So I really invite you to follow us and to enjoy what we are really, really about to launch in the end of March.
Perfect. I love that. Thank you so much. And I'll be making sure that I'm certainly following as well, Marta. And thank you again for being a wonderful panelist today too. Very much appreciated. Finally, João, you have the honor, as it turns out, of the final remarks.
Thank
So,
you.
tell us your thoughts, João.
I will be very quick. Well, I hope low season traveling will, of course, increase because the impact and the importance of this kind of travel in the low season, it's fundamental to keep the territory alive. Just by doing this kind of tours in the small village, in the farms, in the natural parks, it's already a big step to preserve them. If we can manage to keep people living in the countryside, doing what they are doing now, it's already a success to keep these territories alive. And we need the territories alive. This is something that we have been talking about already for several years, which is, if I don't manage to help these special values to be alive, my tourism offer will also disappear. So I need to do something about it. I need to help to preserve these values so I can also offer them. So it's a relation which is obvious, of course, but in many ways the process, it's slow, to understand it and to put it in practice. So I hope in the future, all the industry of tourism will be much more active and more proactive in these issues. And of course, I think on those things for the future of the region, of course, and for the future of everything. So, and I hope the next years, let's see what happens, but I also am a little bit optimistic if I manage to survive until there.
Exactly.
But I'm optimistic because we are talking about this every day. So, and I hope, finally, that also the public institutions, they also do their role, because sometimes it's hard for us as a private to do our job, and then you go to the countryside or territory and you see garbage, and you see the management of the territory just not a good management. So it's important that also the institutions, they do their job. So, well, thank you very much, and I would just end here. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed to you, João. And thank you to all our wonderful panelists for sharing your expertise with us and giving up part of your Saturday afternoon. I believe that all of our speakers will be hanging on in the networking sessions, which are just starting now. So I won't leave us any longer because we all want to get networking. But thank you all very much indeed for your participation. Thank you for your wonderful questions, all of you, those that gave your questions. Thanks for your comments, and feel free to join us in the networking sessions. But thank you very much from me. All the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think we are waiting for Annabella Foss. Can you hear me, Vitor?
Okay, I'm okay. I'm listening to you very well.
Okay.
Can you listen to me too?
Yeah. And Annabella is arriving also.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you, but I cannot see you. But
Oh, okay, just a moment. Okay, now you can see me. Right?
Good. So, not seeing you still, but
You're not seeing me
no,
yet?
no. The question is if you can see yourself. Yeah, now we can. So I think it's only the three of us. Welcome to the second panel. It's dedicated to top destinations for low season travelers. And we have the pleasure to have with us Vitor Silva, that is the president of the Alentejo Tourism Board, and also Anabela Afonso. Anabela Afonso is the head of the Cultural Promotion Department of the Algarve Cultural Region Board. So she's in fact the commissioner of the cultural program 365 Algarve, I should say, Algarve. That is, for the ones that don't know, it's a program of events during all year, not only high season, but low season also in the Algarve region. So Anabela and Vitor, welcome and thank you for being with us in a Saturday afternoon. I will not be as fluent in English as as Gerard Brown is, but I will do and I will try my best. So Anabela, I think I will start with you about the program 365 Algarve, and do you, and how we can relate this to the low season. I think when this program started, the main goal was to end the low season effect. Am I right, Anabela? I don't know if Anabela.
It's frozen.
I don't know if Anabela is listening to us. Anabela, no. So we have technical problems. She's starting again. I don't know if she. No, I think we are the two of us here, Vitor. So I will
Okay.
keep this session with you. It's like a friend's conversation.
Yes. So as a friend of mine says, we're gonna enjoy a lot to be only two of us.
Two of us, yeah. So regarding top destinations for low season travelers, Alentejo was the region that during this pandemic time was less affected with the break of the tourists. So it was a region that still, I would not say that grow in terms of tourism, but during all year it maintained some stability. Can you confirm this?
Well, to speak the truth, the numbers of the figures of the tourism in the last year are for the Alentejo are a tragedy, like all over the world and in Portugal. But of course, in Portugal, the tragedy of the numbers are not so big as the rest of the country of Portugal, because we are a region with low density population, and so the people in Portugal, especially Portuguese people, have looked for Alentejo because they have the idea, and it was true, that it was safer to be in Alentejo than in other parts of the country. So as we look to the figures, we can say that related with the tourism of the residents of Portuguese people, we have a decrease of 20%, but and it is very low compared with the other regions of Portugal. But of course, it was not very good. And related with the foreign people, of course, we have lost about 70% of the regular visitors of the region.
Yeah, but one of the main reasons for that was also because we didn't have flights, and I think that affected the connection effect is also very, very important. But do you think that people, when this pandemic ends and the doors of our homes are open again, do you think that people will be more aware and they will be more looking for places like Alentejo, or they will get back to business as usual?
No, I think, of course, the memory of the people have short memory, and the main goals of the people who travel will be the same. But I see more and more people, perhaps not the great part of the people, who continue looking for destinations of beach and sun or big cities like Paris or Lisbon or London or so. But there are more people that are concerned with the safety questions, with the matters that are related with conservation of the nature, the preservation of the places. And so I think places like Alentejo will grow more than usually in the next years when we can travel again.
Yeah, but what can Alentejo do or is doing in order to be a top destination for low season travelers? And let's focus on low season. Now, let's forget even the pandemic effect. Let's just focus on, life is going as normal. Low season, how can we market the region as a low season destination, and what does it has to offer?
Well, I think for the destination to be a low season destination, it should have some characteristics. We don't build a low season destination because we want it to. We have to have some characteristics. One of the main characteristics is the essential characteristics, of course, of the region. One of them is the climate. Alentejo is a region where the climate is a Mediterranean climate, because we are, of course, out of Mediterranean, but the climate of the south of Portugal, Alentejo and Algarve, are a Mediterranean climate. It means that we have not very cold winters. Of course, we have hot summers, but in the case of Alentejo, the coast of Alentejo, a beautiful coast, very well preserved, perhaps the most well preserved coast in all Europe, perhaps, have not so hot summers as other Mediterranean destinations because of the influence of the Atlantic. So we have climate characteristics that invite the people who came in low seasons and in shoulder seasons. The winter in Alentejo, in the most part, not in all the parts of Alentejo, but in the most part of Alentejo is a winter valley. It's a light winter, we could say. So, and one of the things that we have very well for being a low season destination is because we are very related with the tourism in the nature. All the things that we can do in the nature, walking, cycling, every type of cycling and walking. And so like that, we are very well. We have the good things to be a low season destination.
Okay, so Annabella, I don't know if now you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Great. Yes. Now we can communicate. I actually started by you, but then we lost you. I was saying that regarding the program 365 Algarve, I was seeing, for instance, some videos of yours promoting in March last year the Contrabando festival, and yeah, we were starting to enter the pandemic state. We were not still aware of how the world would be. I don't know if we lost you again. No, we lost Algarve connections. Annabella. Okay. I get back to you, Vitor. You were speaking about the hiking and the cycling. Actually, that kind of activities, they are best during the shoulder season. That means autumn and spring. Of course, not summer because it's very hot. So in that way, this is products that they are made to fight the low season effect. Alentejo has made a big effort in the last years to build hundreds of kilometers of hiking and cycling routes, as I recall. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I should say not hundreds, but thousands. In walking passes and biking and cycling too. And in the last panel we have been listening Marta Cabral, who is the CEO of Rota Vicentino. Rota Vicentino, it was the first and incredible place where we have now some of the more fantastic passes for walking, and in these moments also for biking in all Europe. Are top products, completely marketed and safe, and with applications for mobiles and maps, everything. And not only walking passes, but related with restaurants, little hotels, where people who made handicrafts. So it's a product in the Rota Vicentino is top. But so after that, in other parts of the territory of the Alentejo, we have built with the head of the municipalities and also with the private enterprises and the private operators, we have built more in the interior, as I say, thousands of walking passes that everybody can use by themselves or guided tours. And also related with little hotels, with the restaurants, with the handicraft artisans, etc. So in this moment, we can offer a complete experience in all the territory, in natural parks, nearby rivers, and everywhere. We can travel walking by all the region and biking too. And in this moment, we are building and have already built a dozen of stations for support of the people who made from biking is a way of making tourists. In these stations, the people can rest, can take a bath, can take a bath to his bicycle too, maintain the bicycles, and we are doing this and we have the project to do this all over the territory. In this moment, we have a dozen ones, but we intend to multiply this for all over the territory. And so one of the things that we are doing also is for people who have nature, like the people who came by automobiles, by auto caravans. I don't know how do you say it in English, but people who have a house in wheels. I can say like that. And we have building in these moments also stations for support the people who use outside the camping, because in the camping parks they have also this support, but outside the camps, stations to support the people who came by auto caravans.
You can say instead of motor caravans, I think motor homes.
Motorhomes.
I think
it's the expression of the Americans use.
Yeah, motorhomes, it's more American than English.
American. In Europe, I think they don't use the. In France, they say autocaravan, but in English, I don't remember.
So we still don't have Annabella Afonso. That's a pity. So we will start this. It is more a conversation. We would need like a glass of Alentejo wine to make this going. And to speak about wines and Alentejo are two words that go like as perfect match more and more in the last decade. If we would let me start. Let me try now. No, Annabella is jumping.
Is out of the game.
Yeah, Annabella. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Hello? Yes. Let's try now.
Yes.
So I was speaking about the program, the 365 Algarve. This was the first program that I remember that was built to fight the low season effect, because people would complain that would go to Algarve out of the summer, and they would complain that there was nothing really happen when there was a lot of things, but people did not know. So what can you tell us about this experience?
Yes. Well, I don't know if it was the first program to combat the season break, but I'm sure it was the first one that was made, putting together two sectors of activity, which is culture and tourism, in order to work during low season. So that I'm sure it was the first one. Of course, I'm very suspicious to give my opinion, but I think it was a very good experience, especially because of that you just said, because many times people look at the Algarve as a place where you can only go for the summer and you can only go there to go to the beach and to have some sun, but we have much more to offer, and we are much more than just sun and the beach in the summer. And so I think that was one of the positive things that 365 showed us. It was an opportunity for people to be people that were from outside of the country, people that were Portuguese people, but also used to only come to the Algarve during the summer, and even for people from Algarve that are used to live just close to the coastline, and they are not very used to go to countryside and to go across one point to the other of the region. So I think that 365 had as main purpose, it was to show that we had many things to do in the Algarve outside high season, during the low season, and also to show that whenever it wouldn't matter, whatever was the time you would come to the Algarve, in whatever place you would come to the Algarve, you would always have something to do. That was one of the main purpose of this program. And with this big highlight that it was the cultural activity, which is another thing that usually, even in Portugal, people are not very used to look at the Algarve as a region where we have
and we lost Annabella again. It's like, and we are back alone, Vitor, to speak.
I have to say that I'm full of this virtual life.
I think we are all full of this. We are completely.
When we are physical together, no one disappears from a moment. In a moment, no one disappears.
We are fed up of these technological breaks. But going back to the Alentejo, how and the main objective of this panel is to discuss top destinations. Annabella returns.
Hello, I'm
Hello,
here again.
Annabella.
Hello, I'm sorry. But, well, this is one of the things, because I was hearing the previous panel before, and I was listening to João Ministro, and he was saying something that is very important. That is one of the things that we have to look in the future if you want to keep our country with some kind of equality in the way we look at our country, and not people just, if you want to keep people living in the countryside, we have to make sure that they have the same conditions, or at least similar to people living in the city. I live in the countryside, so we are having an experience of someone that is living in the countryside, and it's not easier for us to stay connected, as you can see now, because my net sometimes, yes.
But
so,
Annabella, you were saying about the program 365, and one question that I have is, do you think that this program, that was a program of events all year round, allowed people to discover other parts of the Algarve, other destinations of the Algarve, that if it was not for this program, they will never find out?
Yes. We have a channel in YouTube with many videos of all the 4 years of the program that people can check out later. But we have many people coming towards us and saying exactly that even people from the Algarve, as I said, that didn't have any idea of some of the landscapes we have in the countryside, some of the traditions we have in the countryside. So, for instance, you were talking about the Festival do Contrabando, the Smugglers Festival, which is a big success from the beginning. And even people from other places in the Algarve were amazed by going there.
That is in Alcotim, no?
Alcotim, yes.
Yeah, that is one of the most underrated places of the Algarve, but it is amazing. It's beautiful.
Yes, and it is one of the most desertified municipalities of Europe, not only Portugal, because they have very few population now. The population is very old now, and it's one of the places that it's getting desertified without people living there. And it is very important for us to bring some attention to these places that have beautiful landscape. They have beautiful places for us to have quiet holidays, to still have some experience of getting in touch with old traditions, like Teresa was saying before. You can go there. They have a program now of a young man who also went out of Alcotim to study, and after a few years he came back to make his own touristic business, and he has some goats and he makes some cheese, and it's something he offers to the tourists that goes there. People spend there a few days and they go experience with him to, shepherd the goats and make the cheese, and all this concept of experiencing, not only just visiting some place like you visit everywhere else in the world. It's like it gives us the opportunity to blend in with the local community and to have experiences regarding what is the way of life of that people there. But not only Festival do Contrabando in Alcotim, we had another example of which was the Forgotten Food Festival Festival da Comida Esquecida, which we had it for the first time this year. And it was a project that it meant to recover some old traditions of cooking in some places of the countryside in the Algarve, and with some food that we don't use it anymore. In most of the time we don't use it, and people forgot.
I think again we lost Annabella. Vitor, for instance, we were speaking about Alcotim. We could speak because I think it's one of the top destinations of the Alentejo for low season. For instance, Mértola. It's a place that I'm almost sure that foreigners have never heard about this place, but Mértola is one of the highlights of the region, no?
From ancient times, Mértola was the western port of the Mediterranean. Even if Mértola, as Portugal, is outside of Mediterranean, but all the trade that goes around the Mediterranean came also outside Hercules columns, as the ancient people talking about the Strait of Gibraltar, and came all across the Atlantic, and goes up by the Guadiana River, passing Alcotim, that we have spoken before, and goes until Mértola. Mértola was the most western port of the Mediterranean. There comes the Romans, and with the Romans, the Jews, 700 years before Portugal was even born. After with the Romans also the Christianity, after the Muslim people, and after also the Christian. Again, we have the two periods of Christianity in Mértola, before the Muslims and after the Muslims. Mértola is a jewel. We can say it's a jewel. In the top of the river, we can look to the river town downside, and it's a place incredible. It's a place with a little more than 1,000 inhabitants, but they have 13 little museums because they are so rich in heritage that are a place that is incredible. It's an incredible place. So it's a very good place to go to low season tourism, because the people love the heritage, love gastronomy. They have good wine also, and you can do travel in water. You can go from Mértola, passing Alcotim until the sea in the south by boat, up or down the river. It's an incredible place and not very well known.
Actually, Annabella was speaking about Alcotim and about the guy that came there, and then he did something really special in terms of tourism. And just to remind you, there is a small, tiny village in the Mértola municipality that is called Mesquita. That is the lost village of the Alentejo. There is no more Alentejo after that, and there is an amazing tourism project, also totally out of the radar, and that people should discover in a village called Mesquita, and it's really, really beautiful. I don't know if Annabella.
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay, Annabella. So you were saying, I don't know if you can.
Yes, I was talking also. I'm sorry. I'll try to speak as long as I have the signal. I was talking about another project which is the Forgotten Food Festival, which also is based on this kind of experiences, just like the one you also, I think you just mentioned on Mértola. And I think this kind of experience brings something new to this idea. I think it's a bit of the future to explore in tourism. Although I'm not from the tourism industry, as you know, I come from the cultural field, so I do not have the technical knowledge of the tourism industry. But I do know one thing, is that, I always hear that tourism is called the peace industry, because is an industry that brings people together, brings us to meet other people countries, other people territories, and other people cultures. That's something tourism really does. So this is why I became such a fan of this connection between tourism and culture. And I think we 365 was kind of an experience, an experiment, bring together these two sectors of activity. And I think we were just starting. We learned a lot of things, but I think we have to continue learning together, people from the cultural field and people from tourism. Because with this concept of slow traveling and low season traveling, what I think it is important is that this points out something very special that we can do is when we go to these small places to meet local communities and to have this kind of experiments with people, seeing people do things like they do in their day-to-day life, brings some humanity in this experience. It's just not anymore a tourist going for a travel and take some pictures to the landscapes and then he comes back home to get on with his life again. I think this kind of experiences that we have with the local communities, where it's not really going to an event or going to a performance or going to a concert or going to a show. It's people really end up doing things together, and this makes some important connections between people. Even it creates new affections, Mm-hmm. And I think this is very important. When you look at the world today, I think we have a great responsibility in making a better world together. And I think tourism and culture are really the kind of activities that can really make a difference in the future.
I think, Annabella, that is the definition and the difference between being a tourist and being a traveler. As a traveler is someone that is looking more to the reality and he wants more to connect and to engage. And the tourist is something more light. He wants just to enjoy. I think there is a slight, strong difference. It makes all the difference, actually.
Yeah.
One of the main goals of this panel was local tips for exploring Portugal during low season. You are a local. Let me ask you, what tips do you have for someone that wants to explore Algarve in the low season? What places should they visit? Because I'm almost absolutely sure that being a commissioner of this project, you have traveled all around the Algarve, so you can be a good advisor to us.
Yes. Well, let me tell you something that even for me it was a surprise when I've made all these journeys throughout the Algarve. It's that we already have kind of many lost small villages in the Algarve which have nearly no one anymore living there, and it's like we are arriving at some kind of lost paradises. And it's amazing to visit these places. At the same time, it is a bit sad when you see that there's no one there anymore in some cases. Alcoty is one of the examples. If you go around all the territory of Alcoty, you see small hills with houses, and sometimes you have 1-2 people living there because everyone else left. In Monchique, we also had that. We even made a show there, in these lost villages with no one living in there. Like it was like some ghost villages, but beautiful ones. And I could suggest people to try and drive through the inner land in the Algarve to the countryside, just going from village to village. I think people would be really surprised to what they would discover and see. And for instance, at this time of the year now, and fortunately this year we've been having rain, good rain, which is good. And you have a lot of small places with fountains, with small rivers, with water that make really beautiful landscape in the countryside of the Algarve. So it's something that I really think that even people from the Algarve, from the countryside, or from other parts of Portugal, they have a hard time to imagine the Algarve this way, because it's always the images of the beach and the summer that the first ones to come to our minds whenever we talk about the Algarve. And so I would definitely advise people to try to explore the region in this time of the year.
Right, Vitor, Alentejo also had the program 365 Alentejo. We were not called Alentejo, it was just Alentejo, not with the joke of the words like in the Algarve. But how was the experience, and what impact had in the region more inland and in low season?
Well, in this moment, we need to say that the program is suspended by the Turismo de Portugal, that are reforming the program, and we don't know yet the next program, or if it will come a new program. But for us, the program, it was designed in the same sense of the Algarve to get more tourists in the low season. About that, I should say that, well, we have special for Portuguese people, the program, it works. But for foreign people, the programs works more. It was programs that are in the high season. So, of course, it works for tourism, but differently from tourism from Portuguese people and tourism for foreign people. Of course, we have seen some growth in some type of programs, like a big music program, one of the best in Europe, that was Terra Sem Sombra, translated to English, Land Without Shadow, because in Alentejo we have not very much trees, so we have not lots of shadow. We have more sun than shadow, and more light than shadow, and this works very well for foreign people. It was a program with lots of concerts, special classic music in little towns, very, very little towns, some towns of 200 or 300 people, but it was a program that goes from the winter until the summer. And so it works well for the Spanish people, Other program that is supported also for this was the Marvão Music Festival. Marvão Music Festival in these moments is the biggest and the best music, symphonic music program in Portugal. It comes orchestras and players, musicians from all over the world, and lots of foreign people comes there. But it's a program in July, not in low season. But Marvão have gained a lot with that, because Marvão is a small town with 200 or 300 people, and thousands and thousands of people have come there and came. And this year we think they will come again in this period.
Okay. Annabella, back to you.
Yes.
You were speaking a few minutes ago. You were speaking about this marriage, perfect marriage between culture and tourism, and the effect that it had in the region in terms of slightening the curve of the of the low season. One question is, do you think that that is just like one situation in all country, or it is getting more and more in other regions of Portugal like that, like cultural? Because until now, what I have seen is that culture and tourism were always with their backs turned to each other. They were not speaking
Yes,
to each
you're
other.
right.
And we could see that like in the entries of museums, the schedules were not adapted to visitation as the international tourists. Museums didn't have even content in English, to say the least. And so what process, what is happening now? How do you feel this marriage evolving?
Yes. Yes, you're right. It's something that it's all over in the entire country, that historically tourism and culture are with their backs at each other. They are not talking a lot. But from my experience, what I can tell you, it's 4 years of a program like this is just a starter. And as Vitor Silva said, we now don't know, the program was suspended. We don't know if it's going to be back again or in another form. But what I can tell you is, what I felt is important is just to start working together. It is not still a perfect marriage. It was a marriage that it was just starting to go.
It was a forced marriage, no?
No, I don't think at the beginning it was a forced marriage, because it was there was a big complicity between the people that were involved in the project. So it started okay, but it's something new. And whenever you are starting something new, you have a lot of work to do. That's the point. That's what I was trying to tell you. And I think that it's useful when we start to work together, because if by one hand you see that we are still doing things that are wrong, we have things to improve. On the other hand, you discover that whenever you work together with people that are used to different realities from yours, you come to new solutions sometimes, and that's a good thing. And that's what I felt in this experience. I'll just give you an example. We had a project that was kind of a theater program that was like a guided visit in Faro, and then it was extended to more 3 or 4 cities in the Algarve. And it was an old town visit. It was made by a theater group where the tourists would come. They could do it in Portuguese, or they could do it in English, or with Portuguese, and people had like a libretto to read, like when you go to the opera, you would read it in English, the story. And so you would go through making a guided tour through the historical center of Faro, but with theater, with characters. You had the Romans.
Immersive thing, no?
Yes, and you had the Arabs, and then you had the marriage, and you were attending to the marriage, and they would call someone from the public to do the priest, So this was a kind of experience that we then saw that it was reproduced in an experience in a winery in the Algarve, that someone went to see this guided tour, and then they talked to the people that made the theater, and they took them to do kind of the same thing in the winery they had, so that they would guide the people in the vineyard, with the theater play. So this is one of the examples whenever you put people from different realities working together, they come to new solutions. And this is why I think it is very important for the people from tourism and culture to continue to work together, and to find out some of the things that you can come to new ways of showing what it is our country, what is the experiences that we have to offer. What I felt is sometimes it is hard, as I was telling you, because sometimes people are not very open to, to talk from people. I think there is a kind of prejudice from both sides, from tourism towards culture, but also from culture towards tourism. But I think that we'll all win if we continue to insist on working together.
Right. Vitor, back to you. We were speaking that Alentejo had made a big effort and work in terms of building hiking and cycling routes. You spoke actually not in hundreds of kilometers, but in thousands. Actually, just the idea, to give the idea to people that probably don't know, Alentejo is the biggest tourism region in Portugal in terms of area, and it's 1/3 of the country and only has 500,000 inhabitants. So this to put things in perspective. I know that the region has been making a big effort in creating and developing new ways of tourism, like the equestrian tourism, just to combat, to fight the low season effects. What do you have now in terms of, like, for instance, equestrian tourism that is becoming more and more a big thing? It's not like a niche anymore. It's something that is actually growing.
Well, first of all, I have to tell something before talking about that. The Alentejo is not a region for mass tourism. Is not and will not be a region for mass tourism. Our characteristics, one of them is that we are very few people. We are 500,000 people in a territory that have the same size of a country like Belgium. So we are not disappearing. The Alentejano people are not disappearing, but it was always be like that. The characteristics of the territory is the agriculture is the main sustainable economy of the region. We have almost not big industries except one big place in the coast. We have a big port. Sines port is the port with the more deep waters in all Europe. There are ships that came to Europe that only can stop there. But in the rest of the country, we have not a single one big industry. We have little industries related with the production of olive oil and the wine and the cork. We are the center, world center of production of cork. And so we are not a region for mass tourism. We have a lot of products, lots of products that are all of them are niche products. So we have a great variety of products, so we can compensate. If one product is decreasing in demand, we can compensate that with increasing other products. But it gives us also the responsibility to play very different instruments. And one of them that Ruben have spoken minutes ago, it was the tourism related with the horses. In Alentejo, Alentejo is the center of production of the Lusitano horse. We have a horse race, a kind of horses that exist in Portugal that are from Portugal is called Lusitano horse. And the center of production of Lusitano horse is in Alentejo, in a little town called Alter do Chão. Alter do Chão is the center of production of Lusitano horse. There are lots of producers of Lusitano horse all over the world. But for instance, if you are a producer of Lusitano horse in Brazil, in the United States, or in Belgium, and you have to certify a horse, you have to get a sample of DNA of this horse. You have to have in all the papers the name of the father, the mother of the horse, and send it to Portugal, to Alter. They analyze the DNA.
Is where they have the stud farm.
Yes,
the stud farm is there.
Yes, and only in Alentejo you can certify. You can produce all over the world, but you have to certify in Alentejo. So, in the last years, we have also trying to create a tourist product related with the horses, because it was only economic. Before it was only economic, only produce horses to sell it, not more than that.
Not for tourism purpose, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. And in the last years, we are developing a product that comes from visitation to the horses, to see the horses that goes in the morning to the fields, and in the end of the day, they came to assist to demonstrations of the abilities of the Lusitano horses, and also create some horses to also rides for tourists. And even in these moments, in the last year, we have inaugurated a hotel just in the site where the horses are breeded. And so it's a very interesting product. Of course, all the Alentejo are very related with the culture of the horses. I remember when I was a little kid, all the rich people have horses. They have horses. They have not automobiles. They have horses, and they ride on horses. We have lots of demonstrations, the pilgrimages in horses. We have a huge pilgrimage that begins near Lisbon, in the other side of, not in Lisbon, the other side of the river Tagus, and goes to the middle of Alentejo with people riding horses with cars pulled by horses. It's a pilgrimage with a religion, a motivation, but it's a huge and it's incredible. So this kind of products related to the horses, to see the horses, to ride the horses, to see pilgrimages in the horses, we are developing this in the last years.
Okay, I think we've reached our time, 1 hour. We were supposed to have another guest in our panel, but unfortunately he could not make it. I don't know if there is any questions. If there aren't questions, I have to thank Annabella for her efforts to be online in difficult situation, and to Vitor Silva. And I hope that more and more people go to the Algarve to discover the inner land, not only the beach, but the Monchique and all these amazing places more inside the region, and also to Alentejo and the beauties of the region. So thank you both, and thank you for inviting me, and I wish you a very good weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rowan and Vito and Abella. Thanks, everyone, and for the awesome work and the great talks you had today. Although we did have a little technical issues, but that's part of of the job, right? That's how you have an event. You always have a technical issue. And it's true that Twitter said that in real life, you cannot have people disappearing, well, unless there's some magic. But it's also true that online events, you can bring people from all over the world without traveling and having all that impact in our environment that sometimes is just for a couple of hours. So it's kind of balanced out what happens in the situation. But anyway, thanks to all panelists. I think it was a terrific day. What do you think, Vera? What was
Well, time passes fast when you're having fun, right? And I felt like these 2 hours just passed like running. Thank you so much to all our speakers, and special thanks to our moderators. It was really a truly inspiring event for us. I hope it was the same for the audience. Thank you to all the attendees that spend their Saturday here with us. And again, if you want to know more about our next events, if you are into the sustainability tourism in some way, would like to join us and get to know more, follow us on our Facebook, Impact Travel Alliance Portugal, or on our Instagram, Impact Travel PT, and talk to us. We'll have more events soon, right? We'll probably start thinking about the next one next week, so stay tuned.
And also, just before we leave, also need to thank the rest of our team. So it's not just us organizing it, it's also Raul Araújo, she's also here in the crowd, Sandra Matos, Sofia Martins, and Teresa Santos, okay? They're all part of our amazing ITA team, ITA Portugal team. So thanks to all of them. And we do have our networking area, so we're going to leave the platform open. So if you guys want to join anyone and play around on the lounge, and chat around, it's just going to be open for you guys to have fun. Okay, so thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend.
See you next time. Bye.